support me and be on my wall of supporters. Thank you, my nerd. My dear nerds, I don't want to mix around words, I don't want to give you fluff. This handheld is most probably the best smallish 5.5-inch horizontal that we have right now, because this ticks a lot of boxes. You know, you might actually tell me, Vlad, what are you on about? This is overpriced, it's in the price of the Retroid Pocket 5. Why are you starting so strong in this video? And I am starting strong, but I have very good thoughts on why this is the case. So stick around and let me explain it to you. First off, let's start with the specs, because the specs are an immense bump in performance compared to the previous generation, the 556, that this handheld proceeds. We have a Dimensity 8300 processor, which is a real improvement, especially because it's a 4nm chip, and we love this. Like 4 nanometers, that's like heart, you know, heart reacts. We need to show some love to manufacturers that actually put a 4nm node in their handhelds. This is a far cry better from the 7nm in the Retroid Pocket 5 and unfortunately my beloved Flip 2 as well. But coming back to the specs, the Anbernic RG557 comes with 12 gigs of RAM and 256 UFS 4.0 storage. This means that it has double the space of the RG556 and it has way more RAM as well. The RAM was bumped from 8 GB on the previous generation to 12 on this one, and it has double the storage as well. These are very good improvements, especially because UFS 4 means actually faster storage than what the previous generation had as well. Now, because I don't want to put a lot of fluff in this video, you might directly ask me, Vlad, why do you start this video so strongly? This isn't in a competitive price point. It's actually a bit more expensive than the Retroid Pocket 5 and everybody loves that handheld. And I would say yes, my nerd, you are perfectly right. I totally agree with this. However, this is way more performant than the Retroid Pocket 5, and I would argue, besides portability, it's a way more balanced all-rounder. First of all, it's inheriting the same ergonomics from its predecessor, the RG556. To this day, my dear nerd, the RG557, just like the RG556, is the most comfortable horizontal handheld that I ever held in my life, and you would probably say the same once you put this in your hand. Something about the ergonomics are simply perfect. You fit this handheld in your hands with such gracefulness. It's so compatible that you don't feel any sort of strain, even if you played this for a million hours on end. Of course, I'm dramatizing for effect, but you get my idea here. This is immensely comfortable, absurdly comfortable. Now, the problem with this handheld is that because it's so ergonomically designed, it's way less pocketable than the Retroid Pocket 5. You know what, I figured that I should actually bring both the Retroid Pocket 5 here and the RG556 so that you get a way better picture with all of this. My dear nerds, the Retroid Pocket 5, when you look at it, it looks like a very nice handheld. It has very strong PS Vita vibes, and that totally feeds into the desirability of this little guy. However, if you play for it for more than, I would say, 40 minutes, and if you use the left stick, then your hands would quickly get cramped because you have to do some real contortionism to use this stick on the regular. This is a D-pad first handheld, and it's been designed like that. It's been designed to be very comfortable when you use the D-pad, but not as comfortable when you use the stick. By contrast, both of these have the stick up, not down, like here, and the ergonomics take precedence. They are way more important than pocketability. When you put this in your quote-unquote pocket, these horns will actually prevent you to do so, but you might actually have a chance with the Retroid Pocket 5. By the way, I hope you like my new sticks, which I put here. These are Iron Odin 2 Portal sticks. I think they look quite dashing on the RP5. But coming back to these little guys, in terms of performance, the Anbernic RG557 is by far the most performant. In fact, it outperforms the Retroid Pocket 5 and its previous generations by a whole lot. This is vastly more performant. Now, a lot of people complain about the sticks. They changed the whole technology behind these joysticks. Apparently they are way more accurate than even whole sticks, but they are petite. Look how small they are. Look at my finger. I don't have big fingers in the slightest, but I am able to cover them, and the travel isn't as big as you see in this video. In fact, even its previous generation, the RG556, had bigger sticks than this. You can actually distinguish them on camera. Let me just find a good point of comparison, a good position with these. I think, yeah, you can see the difference here. And by contrast, the Retroid Pocket 5 can have any sticks you want, because you can actually replace these. If only I could take it out. It doesn't want to be taken out. Oh well, it wins this time. I'm not gonna insist. I would argue, my dear nerd, controversial take, you shouldn't hate the small sticks. There's a lot of buzz on the internet and on other videos that the sticks are super small and uncomfortable. Who the heck came up with the idea that smaller sticks are somehow worse? What is this? When do we care about stick sizes like this is a thing? What matters on a stick, in my own humble Vlad Nerd opinion, is two things: sensitivity, aka how precise it is, and grip, how much control do you have on it when you use it. You're gonna put your thumbs on it. What matters is that connection between your thumb and the thumbstick itself. And I am here to tell you that I love how these feel. I have total control if I move just a little like this. In a game, I'm gonna show off games in a bit, I feel like I have total control. Now, I didn't have the same control on the previous generation. The sticks were, to say the least, kind of bad. They had cardinal snapping issues. People were not fans of that. And on the other hand here, when it comes to the Retroid Pocket 5, these are good sticks. I'm not complaining about them. They can be pretty okay. Again, the position is a bit bad, especially if you want to play stick-centric games and not necessarily D-pad-centric games. So, out of all three of these, I would say, and a lot of people will disagree with me on this, but I love the small sticks the best. Now, you know what? I forgot to say this. This video is totally mine. I say everything that comes out of my head here. All words here are my own. Nobody paid for this video. Nobody saw this video beforehand. However, this RG557 was sent to me by LitNXT, which is pretty awesome because this allows me to review handhelds for you guys. But nobody saw this video beforehand, not them, not anyone. However, I will have a link in the video description if you want to get the Anbernic RG557 for yourself after this video. Having said this, let's go back to this handheld. The sticks are actually one of my favorite, and a lot of people will grill me in the comments for this, but hey, I'm here to tell you the truth, not to be an echo chamber, okay? So love me as I am, even when I do things like stretch to fit or when I like small sticks. Sue me. Before I jump into the games, I should go back to the specs a bit. This might be a good idea. It comes with Android 14, Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.3, which is very good. This is very bad. Support for third-party game downloader. Anbernic. Why? Why? We're already in a gray zone with this hobby. You know, there's companies out there, like Japanese companies, wink wink, nudge nudge, which would love to associate our beautiful retro game emulation with piracy. Don't give them reason to show that this is actually a valid argument. It's not, but this looks a bit more like piracy than it should. So I want every person, every nerd that buys this handheld, please, pretty please, the first thing that you should do is wipe this handheld clean, put your own ROMs on it, and for everything that's nice in our hobby, delete all these emulators, by the way. You shouldn't trust these, you should install your own. And whatever you do, uninstall this app, this Rixel HK app. This is a game downloader. I'm not even gonna show it in the video. It's bad. We should hate that application. Piracy is not the same as retro emulation. This is preserving history, and I want it to remain like this. We have dual speakers, which sound pretty nice. Of course, an SD card slot and a 5500 milliamp, but most importantly, the battery charges up to 27 watts, meaning that unlike the RG556, this used to charge very slowly. This charged way slower. In fact, I would say it was painful to charge. It took a while. By contrast, the RG557 charges more like a normal smartphone, which I appreciate. Now, the one thing that I really thought I wouldn't like, I was at odds with this, is this transparent glossy casing. When I watched Ban's video from Retro Handhelds, I actually laughed because he called this handheld a glossy piece of... I can't remember the exact word, but I really laughed. You know, I love Ban. Ban, you're awesome if you see this. However, this is my first very glossy Anbernic. As you see, I had the previous generation in matte black. I avoided the transparent blue like the plague. But I'm vibing with this. The one thing that I don't like is the empty space in the little horns here. You know, it looks like somebody made a hot glass bubble. At the same time, I don't know, this is pretty nice. I don't like the wasted space, but that's me being a bit crazy with this, you know. I'm a bit crazy with my handheld standards, just so you know. This is really a vibe. You can see everything going on inside there. You can see all the little details, all the little chips, the little gold parts that Russ highlighted in his review. There's just a lot of detail here for you to enjoy. This is definitely not a boring handheld. By the way, when it comes to small touches, I like that LitNXT stuck their logo on the box, and it's kind of in a tasteful manner. You know, it's in the corner. It doesn't seem like it's a sticker that's slapped on. When you look at it from this angle, it seems like it's part of the box. I wanted to show you that with the RG557 you also get these little thumbstick knobs, because Anbernic heard of the outcry with the small sticks, and I think this was a last minute decision to try to mitigate that. Personally, I'm not gonna use them. I advise you to not use them either. Get used to the sticks as they are. They are pretty great. Now, bear in mind, disclaimer, this is my own opinion, don't hate me if you think differently. However, I really like them. They are cute and nice, and not everything that's big is bigger. I'm not saying this because I'm a small person, I'm saying this for other reasons, okay? Let's turn on this thing and let's see what it's capable of. I didn't customize it this time. Usually, before I make these review videos, I tend to go deeply into them. I install Beacon Launcher, which is my preferred launcher. I install my own emulators. I install my own games that I legitimately extracted for my own use. It occurred to me, a lot of you fine nerds don't customize it like I do, at least not until I make a tutorial on that. So this is the state in which it will be out of the box. You get a card with it, depending on if you buy it with a card or not. I have a SanDisk card from Lit NXT with their Sir-Wish game collection. This door is quite a bit different than the rest of the casing. It's, I don't know, you'll either love it or hate it. It depends. It's up to you. In order to get into the game launcher, you have to long press this Anbernic button here, and you're gonna get in this menu. Accidentally enter the game. Oh, flipping heck. So this is what you'll be greeted with, and by the way, you will see a bit of flickering on the screen. You won't see this flickering in real life. You can totally relax with that. It is, however, how my camera captures it. Just keep in mind there will be no flicker when you're face to face with this thing. But this handheld, the RG557, has a ton of power. Now bear in mind, when I opened it out of the box, I already had an update that I needed to install. You need to install that update. That update comes with a lot of performance improvements, so do not skip it. It's mandatory. You'll have performance issues without it. When it comes to PlayStation 2, I have a limited selection of games here. You can check out what games will come with your handheld if you buy it with a card. What we're actually interested in is the performance of this thing. For example, here's me playing Devil May Cry 2 at 4x internal resolution like a very arrogant nerd bastard, and it's running at a solid 60 FPS. And I can enjoy this game in a way better quality, in a way better manner than I could ever enjoy this game on something like Retroid Pocket 5 or the previous generation RG556. And that's my point when it comes to this handheld. This is, now I don't want to skip the Iron Odin 2, the non-portal version, but this is the one 5.5 inch horizontal 16:9 handheld that's the most performant out there. Of course, you might tell me, Vlad, what about the Odin 2 Mini? Well, that's also an option, I'm not gonna lie, but that's more expensive than this one, and that's a different handheld altogether. Different ergonomics, different screen, you don't have an OLED. I digress, you get the picture. The RG557, however, I would say its main benefit is the performance, and this is what you need to take away from this. What happened here? Okay, and probably a bit of instability. I went from 60 FPS. Actually, never mind, I forgot to turn the fan on. This was with the fan off, and the handheld really didn't like that. So with the fan on, I can rock 4x internal resolution with 60 FPS with absolutely no problem. Now, I'm not gonna guarantee that you can do this with any game. You can do this with Devil May Cry 3, and this isn't the easiest game to emulate out there. Far from it. But you know, this is just one example of many. Okay, so here's God of War 2. Everybody loves a bit of God of War, right? We are at 60 FPS, just like before, at 4x resolution. Actually, you know what, for stability purposes, I actually took it down to 3.5 x internal resolution, and 3.5x is actually kind of the go-to, I would say, for most games. If it keeps God of War 2 stable, it keeps most games stable. Of course, PSP is even more of a non-issue than this. This is God of War Chains of Olympus on PSP at 4x. You shouldn't really maximize it more than 4x because this is full HD, aka the resolution of the display panel itself, so any more than this you're just wasting battery like a fool, and you shouldn't do that. But yeah, let's quickly check how this runs. I want to see if my frame rate is gonna be displayed. I think that's in settings, right? Yeah, show speed, show frame counter. Perfect. Now look at this. 4x, perfect gameplay, perfect frame rate. That's my point with this handheld, my dear nerds. This is an RG556 on steroids. This new generation, this is not necessarily a budget handheld. This is more expensive than the predecessor, the RG556, and this is also more expensive than the Retroid Pocket 5 and Retroid Pocket Flip 2. However, what you get here is more performance. You get what they call high-resolution anti-magnetic interference capacitive joysticks, but all I hear from that is marketing lingo for good sensitive sticks. This is how you should take it as well. And besides this, my dear nerds, the possible bad part that you should think about here is the fact that you might have some emulator centric issues. The saving grace of the Snapdragon 865, aka the SoC in the Retroid Pocket 5, is the fact that it's highly compatible with most emulators. The Dimensity 8300, this will have some problems with Nintendo Switch, for example, and unfortunately there's not a real way behind that because, well, the Nintendo Switch emulator isn't in active development anymore. However, you might still be able to play some games. There's a lot of games that you can still play on it. There's a lot of games that I used to play on the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, which also had a MediaTek processor, so I wouldn't put a lot of weight in this incompatibility. It's just that more games won't work than on the Snapdragon, but you will have way more performance. This will be very useful if you want to run Win-Later on this thing, which I personally will not. I'm not a fan of Win-Later, but I know a lot of people are. So, good parts and bad parts. My dear nerds, I don't want to beat around the bush. This is a very good handheld, but the price is less competitive than what the RG556 had. So you will pay a bit more for arguably, I would say, this is what the 556 should have been. You pay a bit more for that extra performance and way better sticks and faster charging, extra RAM and extra battery. You see, it has, like the Retroid Pocket 5 as well, it has double the storage of the Retroid Pocket 5, it has 4 extra gigs of RAM, 12 gigs versus 8 gigs when comparing to the Retroid Pocket 5. You get a lot more performance, not to mention these amazing ergonomics. Like, I know I'm repeating this, but this is the best feeling handheld in the hand, period. I've held quite a few handhelds by this point. This one takes the proverbial cake. So yeah, it's a decision here. If you get this handheld, you could pay a bit more and get the Odin 2 Portal, but that's a totally different beast altogether. That's glass. If you crack that, then it's game over. This is plastic. I'm a way bigger fan of plastic myself. There's pros and cons. You will have to think about it. I do think there's a market for this one. I don't think it's for everyone. You have to decide if you're the right person for the RG557. Personally, I'm enjoying it. I really honestly am. However, if I wanted to buy only one handheld, I would think between 3 contenders. This, the Retroid Pocket 5, or the Ion Odin 2 Portal. These 3 would be my contenders. If ergonomics were important to me, I would pick this one hands down. The performance is lower than the Ion Odin 2 Portal. I'm just gonna show you the back while I talk. But it's way better than the Retroid Pocket 5, so there's a pecking order here. That's kind of it. You know, I could recommend this if the price was lower, but at the same time, competition is a cruel mistress. You have to decide, is it worth it, is it not? That's kind of the thing. This is for you to, food for thought, for you to think about, my dear nerds. By the way, I forgot to put this at the beginning of the video, but if you want to help me make new videos, feel free to join my wall of supporters here. If you become either a channel member or a Patreon, you will take your rightful place right here on my beautiful wall with all these awesome people. So, my dear beautiful nerds, it's a bit of a controversy. I don't think I gave you a straight answer, but I don't think that I can. Dig deep within inside you. Figure out ergonomics, more power, then the... You know what? I'm actually gonna give you a straighter answer. This is, in my opinion, better than the Retroid Pocket 5, but if you have the money, get the Odin 2 Portal, the base model. You don't need to splurge. If you want something in between, I think this one, this beautiful, transparent, horizontal little beast, might be a good middle ground, might be the answer for a lot of people. It loves being petted like this. So, anyway, I'll see you in the next video, my dear nerds. If I should have tested more games, let me know, but I think I should only test the highest, most demanding platforms that this comes pre-bundled with. Of course, I could have stuffed it with Win Later and Nintendo Switch. I know a lot of games from both of these apps work beautifully, but out of the box, most people would just get this. And I wanted to also check out the experience that you would get. I think this might be very important. I don't think a lot of our fellow nerds customize them like I do. I lose hours with this. Maybe you don't want to, maybe you want something plug and play. Anyway, this is all from me. Tell me what you think, my dear nerds. I love you very much. I hope you know this, and we'll see each other in the next video. Bye.